Audio is working. Is the audio working? Ah, good. So if you're at home, hit pause, write down that definition. I'm not explaining it again. All right, so here's our form. We're going to start off with the easy ellipses. They are centered 0, 0, whose major axis is the x-axis. And by that, it shows up better on your papers, but notice how it's wider along the x-axis. Look at your notes. Isn't it wider along the x-axis? Yep. That's actually the axis of symmetry. Okay, that's what's cutting this ellipse in half. I'm going to put that in your notes. Axis of symmetry. You'll also notice that most of the cool stuff is on here. There's 4 things on here. There's 2 foci and 2 vertices. Okay, it's got most of the stuff. 2 foci, 2 vertices. That's your major axis. There's only 2 other vertices, and they're lying on the y-axis. Anyways, when we start off, major axis is the x-axis. We're getting a center of 0, 0. Your foci are here. Negative C0 and C0. And put emphasis on foci having the C. That's what we call the letter C. Okay? Negative C comma 0 and C comma 0. You have major axis vertices here and here. Negative A0 and A0. Those are major axes. It's really say that. It's saying major axis. We have what's called minor axis vertices. And they're at 0b and 0 negative b. And there's one other thing you need to know. I'll let you copy all that down real quick. Taylor, what Disney character? I guess what are you? Simba. You see this little triangle in here? Right triangle, isn't it? You smiling about that, huh? Okay. Something wrong with you? If you did Pythagorean theorem on that little triangle, it would actually be kind of different. Say b squared plus c squared is a squared, right? You guys see that? B squared plus c squared is a squared. You need to memorize this, that b squared is a squared minus c squared. You didn't redo Pythagorean theorem here. It's just the way this thing is labeled. That's what you need to know. You need to know that because a and c are usually given to you. They are usually given to you. What you usually have to find is this other distance that gets you to the minor axis. So this is the form you need to memorize. It just comes from drawing in triangle. You guys okay with that? All right, so let's graph our first ellipse. Find equation of the ellipse, the center at the origin, one focus at 3, 0, and a vertex. Oh, I didn't tell you something else, did I? I never even gave you the form you needed. No, I didn't. X squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is 1. That's the form we're using. That's the equation we write, and that's the form that we're studying, how to graph, given that to us. Everybody got that? Aaron, am I boring you to death? Oh, you're just bored. Be honest. Be honest. I had a teacher in college who asked me why I kept falling asleep in her class. It was music. I told her I was bored. She was not amused. She had an attendance policy that said if you missed, every day you missed was a letter grade. And she docked me 2 days for that because from her point of view, I wasn't in class. And I wasn't there to sleep. It cost me an A in music. I was a C. I should have fought that, but I didn't care. Find an equation of ellipse, the center at the origin, one focus at 3, 0, and the vertex at negative 4, 0, and then graph. Well, you should always start by graphing just so you know what you're dealing with. Make yours wide, because it's going to get bound up. I mean, things really aren't that far apart. You'll see that as we get to graphing. So I'm going to make my tick marks fairly wide. Otherwise, it's going to get just too darn close to each other. Anyways, I got a vertex at negative 4, 0. I got a focus at 3, 0. Focus. And the center is where? Origin. Boy, this thing is not the same left to right, is it? Read mine. That's what's given to you. What else can you figure out with a little common sense? How many foci this thing got? 2. That's why you say foci. You know one of them. One of them's at 3, 0. Where's the other one? No, that's a vertex. She said negative 4, 0. That's the vertex. It's not focus. Look at the original graph. Well, we kind of wrote the equation on. Aren't the foci the same exact distance from the origin to center? So if one of them's at 3, 0, where's the other one? Negative 3, 0. Over here. Another focus. You've got a vertex at negative 4, 0. Look at the original picture. You have a vertex at negative 4, 0. Where's the other one? 4, 0. It's called symmetry, kids. One of them's 4 units away, so's the other one. Now, this has 4 of 6 points in each graph. It's the major axis. So this is an x-axis major. Right? So we're going to use a form here. X squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is 1. And just look at that original graph. Where do you get A and C? Well, where do you get A? Vertices, right? That's A. This is 2. But do you want to use a positive or negative? Positive. I'm going to use positive. This gets me x squared over 4 squared plus y squared over b squared is 1. To actually finish the equation, all I really need to know is b. Right? How do I get that? B squared is a squared minus c squared. Now I know that A is 4. Foci. Foci's got a C in it, right? Where's C? What is C? C is not negative 4. Vertex does not have a C in it. The word focus has a C in it. What's a C value? 3. So b squared is 4 squared minus 3 squared. 16 minus 9. 7. B squared is 7. What's b? Square root of 7 plus or minus 2. It's b squared. And in order to draw that egg shape, don't we need something up here and something down there? So we need 2 answers from that. The determination of whether something has 2 answers or not really depends on what is being asked of it. Here we need 2 answers. Now, root of 7, you can go to calculator and approximate it. Isn't it somewhere between 2 and 3? You take root of 9, that's 3. You take root of 4, that's 2. So then root of 7 somewhere in between. I really don't care where it is, you're freehand graphing. You just pick a point somewhere between 2 and 3. You call that root of 7. You want to approximate the decimal, you can. If I was guessing, I'd say it's around 2.4. See how far off I am. I'm way off. It's 2.65. Well, there's your ellipse. Once you've got your 4 vertices plotted, you've got everything you need to draw a lemon or a football, whatever yours ends up looking like. It's not Mr. Abbott's class. Just don't use straight lines. I can't stand kids who draw diamonds. There's a lot of kids who do that. All right, there was one of it. Took us about 10 minutes, but it was the first teaching model. Any questions on it? You think you can look at your notes and figure out where things came from? That's the big deal, right? That you can look back and figure out how it was done? We're not going to do this. We are going to do this one. Analyze this equation. X squared over 25 plus y squared over 9 is 1. Anytime you see the word analyze, that does mean graph. Ultimately, the goal is graph. Anytime you see analyze, it means graph on them. Now, line up with your form, kids. That's all you do is you line up with your form. What's A? 5. Anybody not understand that? Notice A squared lines up with 25. I really need to get better looking, don't I? Because y'all just losing your attention span. Once upon a time, I had big arms, I get fairly muscular. Attention span was easy. Gone. I'm fat. No attention span. A squared is 25. That's where that A is 5 is coming from. What's B squared equal to? 9, right? So what's B? B is 3. Now the only thing, I'll put B as C. The only thing we're missing here to actually do a graph is to find C. Because C tells us where our what are. Okay, focuses, foci, right? So we need to find C. Do we have an equation to get to C? What's the one you're memorizing? B squared equals? There you go. B squared equals A squared minus C squared. That's the one you memorize. It's actually right there on the piece of paper too. You just plug in your stuff. 3 squared equals 5 squared minus C squared. You just manipulate it. You know, that guy can jump over there, that guy can jump over there. So C squared is 5 squared minus 3 squared. You don't have to do it that way, obviously. That's just how I think. What is 5 squared minus 3 squared? $16. So what are our C values for our focuses? 4, plus or minus 4. We have everything we need to graph. So A is 5. What's that tell us? We're talking about vertices or focuses? Vertices, major vertices. Think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got one at 5, 0. Right there. Where's the other one? Negative 5, 0. C is plus or minus 4. That gives you 2 focuses. Where are your 2 foci? -4, 0, -4, 0. Your focuses lie on the same line as your major vertices. B gives you the minor vertices, okay? Minor. And B was 3. Those things you plot on the x-axis or the y-axis. Y-axis. You plot on the y-axis. They're minor vertices. You got one at 0, 3, one at 0, -3. Now you can draw your football, kids. Anybody have any questions? No? Try and get one more out of the way before the bell rings. Well, we can actually finish these tomorrow. Y is the major axis now. So we'll just use this little diagram right here. Still centered at 0, 0. Your foci have moved from the x-axis to the y-axis, if you look at your diagram. So it's not C0 and negative C0, it's 0C. And 0, negative C. Your major vertices have moved to the y-axis as well. So we have 0A and 0, negative A. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, I should have mentioned it in the first slide, but I forgot about it. There's a little rule here. That A is always greater than B and it's always greater than 0. The big number tells you the major axis. The big number tells you which axis is major. Because we're going to rewrite this one. It's almost exactly the same form, except we don't put a squared under x, because a is big. We put under y. So very similar form. It's actually x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared. is 1. So A is always telling you where the major axis is, where it's located. Tells you what axis is major. Write that down in your notes, that's what happened. A tells you what axis is major. B is always a minor axis concept. Makes sense. A, B, C, H underscore B.